There we go. Hey, everybody, and very much welcome to the Scottsdale Big Book Study, where we will study the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Today's date is the 21st of March, 2026. And my name is Johan, and I'm a recovered compulsive overeater from Sweden. I will be your host for today. I have a bunch of co-hosts helping out. I got Danny, I got Nancy, I got David. So thank you so much for your service. And please join us here in this room every Saturday morning. If you have any questions during the meeting, please contact either myself or any of the co-hosts by private message in the chat function. The chat function will be disabled until 5 minutes before the question and answer session. Please note that the speaker Harlan G will be recorded for the duration of the study. However, the question and answer session which follows will not be recorded. We ask if you can please make sure to keep your microphone on mute at all times during today's study, and also turn off your video if you're exercising, eating, and if you need to step away from your screen for any reason. But please have your camera on. It's much more fun that way. We can connect together. During the meeting, we will post the link to our seventh tradition. This money goes towards the cost of our Zoom account, the cost of uploading our recordings, and we also send contributions to our intergroup, Arizona Serenity in the Desert Intergroup, ASDI, and World Service Organization. We will post a link to the previous week's recordings. These are available by clicking on the link that will be posted in the chat box. That was a long sentence. So everybody, here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, the man we've been waiting for. Take it away, Mr. Harlan G. Go, go,
Thank
go.
you. Thank you, Yuan. Thank you very much. We are talking about sponsorship, and we're going to get started on page 94, where it says outline the program of action. But before we get there, as is my usual MO, we're going to talk about sponsorship and sort of review what we've covered. Sponsorship is so vital. Look at what it says on page 89. And this is the reason we go fast through the steps. And this is something that is one of the most profound promises found in the big book. What does it say on page 89 at the top of the page, the very first sentence of the chapter? It says, practical experience shows that nothing so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. What does Clancy Imislund teach us? Clancy teaches us, if you don't know who Clancy was, he was an AA speaker of the highest repute. I have the utmost respect for Clancy Imislund. Unfortunately, he's gone to that big meeting in the sky several years ago, but he leaves us with many of his podcasts. And this is what Clancy Imislund teaches me. He says, and I'm quoting, "We do not learn this program by absorbing spiritual information. We learn this program by transmitting spiritual information." In other words, the way to keep my program green, the way to keep my program fresh as a daisy, is to continually teach it to other people. And in doing that, it keeps me aware of the horror and the nightmare of the food. How does it do that? By putting me in constant contact, not only with God Almighty Himself, but it puts me in constant contact with people that are fresh out of the food. And by listening to them, they tell me their stories. And you know what they've never said to me? And I've been here for a long time, been here 47 years. I've got 27 years of current abstinence. You know what not one of them have ever said to me? It was so fantastic in the food. I can't believe I came back here. I'm out of here. I'm going back to the food. Not one of them has ever said that to me in all the thousands of men and women that I have been in meetings with. Thousands of them, tens of thousands of them, have never said to me, it's fantastic in the food. I love being extremely morbidly obese. I love the way I feel when I can't stand up in the morning. I love the way I feel when I can't fit in my clothes. I've never heard that from one person. So by listening to the nightmarish horror of the food from people that I sponsor, it keeps my program green. And the promise of the big book for me is 100% true. Now, I want to talk just in a little bit of a vague generality here for just a minute, because a lot of people do not want to sponsor. And they're afraid of not being the perfect sponsor. Don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about that. Let the big book do the heavy lifting. I'm not a perfect sponsor. You're not going to be a perfect sponsor. No one is the perfect sponsor except the guy upstairs, the Father of light who presides over us all, the one who is all knowing. It's not Clancy Emerson, as I'm reading in a thing. It's Clancy Imislund, Imslund, Imislund. It's a Norwegian name. But anyway, the bottom line is, you don't have to be the perfect sponsor. All you have to do is be caring and good. And if it's not in the big book, try not to say it and let the big book do the heavy lifting. Take them through as quickly as you can. Imislund, Imslund, Imislund. And if you look him up on Apple or you look him up on Google, most of his podcasts are on Apple Music. I listen to them all the time. He's absolutely hysterical, and he's got a great message. If you want to learn about the history of the traditions, he's got that. If you want to learn about early AA, he came in the 50s. He knew Bill Wilson, and he's just fantastic, just fantastic. Clancy I is in ink. Clancy I from up in, he used to say, I'm Clancy I from up in the sky. Anyway, getting back to what we were talking about, you don't have to be the perfect sponsor. What you do have to do is take them through as quickly as you can so they can get to page 89 and get this promise of immunity from drinking. What a beautiful picture the big book paints. It says immunity from drinking. Isn't that what we all wanted all of our lives? This immunity comes from working the steps and having a spiritual awakening. And I doubt if any human being has ever had a spiritual awakening by any other method to which I am familiar. We have a friend, all of us have a friend in New Jersey. Her name is Kim G. And she says this: you're afraid to sponsor, you better be afraid not to sponsor. Because if you're not going to sponsor, that means you're working an 11-step program rather than a 12-step program. And anything less than a 12-step program is probably not going to work. So you want to work a 12-step program, not an 11-step program. Very, very important. Now, it gives us some information early in the chapter about going to the doctor and going to the hospital, and the doctor will tell you, I have an alcoholic patient in room 302. I have an alcoholic patient in room 705, whatever that is. You can't really do that today. HIPAA laws prevent them from discussing anyone's medical condition with anyone other than the patient, the patient's legal guardians or parents, or anyone who's not designated as having power of attorney. So they're not going to discuss it with you. The guy could come in, or the gal could come in drunk as a skunk, and the doctor is not going to be allowed to discuss that with you. But we don't need that today. And the reason we don't need that today is they come to you. They come to the meetings, and they're in the meetings, and they're struggling, and they need sponsorship. One more thing I want to talk about before we move to the actual page 94, outline the program of action. And this is something that gets overlooked a lot, and I want to bring it out this morning. When we talk about sponsorship and we talk about teaching the program to people, our minds, if you're anything like me, we go to the newcomer and we say, well, I'm going to teach this to the newcomer. I'm going to sponsor the newcomer. Here is something I want to throw out there as sort of something to keep kind of in the back of your mind, because I think it's very important. There are people here this morning. There are people that have been in these rooms, sometimes for decades, who are struggling mightily, and they are in their disease, up to their eyeballs. And we often overlook them because we sometimes hear them say, I've been here for X number of years. And remember this, just because I've been taking up a seat for a number of years does not mean I don't need help. And oftentimes, people that are new, they have less of a problem asking for help. Sometimes people who have been sitting right next to you in the live meetings, or they've attended your Zoom meetings for a very long time. You know, we've been in Zoom since 2020. This is 6 years. In June, this meeting, this big book study here in this format on Zoom will be 6 years old. God should only let me see 7. But the bottom line is that we have been here for 6 years, and there are people who have attended this meeting regularly who I could bet you I have been up and down and across and up and down and God knows what. So don't cross off in your mind being of service to someone who is struggling mightily, and they have been sitting in the same meetings you have been sitting in for years. For years. So this is something that I think is very important for us to remember, because we have a tendency to zero in on the newcomer, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. They need help, and we are uniquely qualified to help them. But let's always remember that just because someone has longevity doesn't mean that they have recovery. It takes what it takes. And we have people that have been in these rooms for years, and they have been embarrassed, afraid, ashamed, or whatever. Somebody hurt them, somebody whatever, and they have not asked for help. Sometimes it's imperative to us when we're at a convention, when we're at a retreat, to take somebody by the hand and say, you know, if you ever need help, I've been around for a long time and I have struggled too. I would love to be available to you if you ever need to talk. So it's important to help the newcomers. Yes, absolutely. Nobody's questioning that. But again, don't forget the people that have been in these rooms that are struggling. What is one of the most important forms of service? Now, this is no substitute for sponsoring, but what is one of the most important forms of service? Many intergroups today don't even do it. That's the shame of it. It's called 12 Step Within. 12 Step Within. I got a call on Tuesday. From a man that lives in New York State, and he was crying his eyes out that he's afraid to ask for help, but he's getting to become 350, 400 pounds again because he's been in the rooms since the 90s, since the early 90s, and he doesn't have a sponsor. And this is why I was reminded of that. So obviously I took him on, and that's fine. And we're working together, and that's okay. I'm glad to do it. I'm honored to do that. That's fantastic. Okay, let's go to page 94. Outline the program of action. It's the first paragraph at the top of 94. Outline the program of action. In other words, what is the program of action? It's the steps. It's the steps, very simple. Explaining how you made a self-appraisal, step 4. But step 4 is not just the be-all and end-all of self-appraisal. What else do we need to appraise about ourselves? What else do we need to do? We need to admit to our innermost selves that we are compulsive overeaters. We need to admit to our innermost selves that we need help, that we are powerless over food, and that our lives have become unmanageable. You may want to explain to them at this point, because they haven't, if they're newcomers, they haven't been through Dr. Silkworth's opinion. They don't know anything about the medical aspect of this. And remember what Dr. Silkworth taught Bill. Don't preach to them from a moral hilltop. Explain to them what I told you. And that is the hopeless condition of mind and body that you suffer from. But don't say it to them that you suffer from this. Tell them in the first person that I suffer from this. In other words, I have determined through the information that I've been given in this book, you have to determine that you are powerless over food. You have this physical allergy, and you have this mental twist. In other words, simply put, you have a mind in search of an effect, that sense of ease and comfort. You have a mind that won't let the thought of food go. And you have a body that won't tolerate it, that once you put any sugar in your body, once you put any certain ingredients in your body, that you are going to you are going to have an allergic reaction. And what is that allergic reaction? Remember what Dr. Silkworth teaches us in the doctor's opinion. This is very important. He says, any description of the alcoholic which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. So teach them, or tell them, don't teach them, tell them how you reacted. Once you ate a piece of pizza, you ate the whole pizza. Once you ate a donut, you ate the dozen donuts. Once I ate any candy at all, I would eat all the candy I could get my hands on. The only time I ever ate one piece of pizza when it was the only one I could get my hands on. So tell them how you determined that you were a compulsive overeater, and then let the chips fall where they may. Don't tell them that they are or not. Tell them you determined. So as part of that self-appraisal, always include not just step 4, but include, before you get to 4, step 1. The other part that I put in there is a little bit of step 2. I'm not going to talk to them about God because I'm going to listen to Dr. Silkworth. I'm not going to preach to them about God because Dr. Silkworth was right. What I say to them is this, and this is what I say. I made a determination for me, about me, that I needed help beyond human help. I needed help, and I could not resist the urge to eat certain foods chocolate and fried and doughy, cheesy crap and candy and all the cookie, all this, I don't have to go into an inventory of it. I could not resist these things because they gave me an effect. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. What is that effect? That effect is that sense of ease and comfort that comes instantly by eating certain foods. Now, if I didn't have the physical allergy, it would be fine. I could, like, you ever watch Batman? He's got his utility belt. I would carry around candy bars. I would carry around some cookies. I'd carry around some whatevers. And every time I felt any kind of a feeling that made me feel a little, off kilter, I'd pop some candy in my mouth and I'd be fine. But I have the physical allergy, so it's impossible. Because once that utility belt was opened and I ate a cookie, I'm going to eat everything in the utility belt. And then you better not be standing in front of me as I'm approaching the Oreo cookie counter at the grocery store because I'll knock you down. Don't you stand in the way of my Oreo cookies when I'm going for those cookies. I'll knock your butt down, buddy. I'll knock your butt down. And don't you think I'm not going to finish one of those containers of Oreo cookies? It's not a box, it's a package for Oreos. They don't put Oreos in a box. They're like a package, like a bag. I have passed thousands of empty ones that they go beep, but there's no cookies in there because I ate them as I walked around the store. And I'm sure some of you who are going like this have done the same thing. So when you make your self appraisal, I always put in, this is just what works for me. I determined I needed a power greater than myself. I needed something more than human aid. And I throw it out there. I don't elaborate on it at first. I don't explain it. I'm not ashamed of it. I got to turn the fan up because it's 104 degrees outside and my air conditioner is not. I should have turned it down before I came in here. So the fan will be fine. But anyway, it's going to be 104 here today, in case you're wondering. Wow. It's only March the 21st. Vejas mir. Okay. Let's go back to page 94, but these are things I want you to think about when you're thinking about sponsoring. Okay, how you straighten out your past. You don't have to go into step 8 and 9 in detail, but you straighten out your past by cleaning up by doing steps 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12, and why you are endeavoring to be helpful to him. It is important for him to realize that your attempt to pass this on to him plays a vital part in your own recovery. Now, let's talk about that for just a second. We live in a world where we are constantly, incessantly bombarded by people who want our money, our attention, and what have you. Especially now that we have computers. It used to be that if I wasn't reading the newspaper at any given moment, or I wasn't watching TV or listening to the radio, I wasn't getting exposed to every commercial, every demand for my money. But now that, by what you click on and what you do, they know if you're a man or a woman. They know if you like blue. They know if you like red. They know whatever it is they know. My God, I was honestly looking the other day at Cubs t-shirts. I'm wearing a Stepping Stones t-shirt today. This is the home of Bill and Lois Wilson. I got this at the gift store in Stepping Stones in New York when I went there a few years ago. And you can order them online too. But I bought some Cubs t-shirts the other day. And I like certain designs that the Cubs have, and I always make sure when I buy a t-shirt that it's 100% cotton, because man, I live in a hot part of the country. You put a polyester shirt on me, I am not a happy boy. I am just not a happy boy. It feels like you're wearing a shower curtain. It just doesn't breathe. I mean, some people can do it. I can't. So I make double dog sure that it's cotton. Well, my God, I bought those last Sunday. They're here, by the way. I just got to go pick them up at my P.O. box. But anyway, since that time, holy garbanzo beans, I can't get on email. I can't open up my phone. I can't open up my computer. I am bombarded by these things. All right, what's the point of telling you this? People get suspicious. We are in an age where in the news, like every day, this guy's getting cheated and that guy's getting defrauded. There was a woman not far from here. She got cheated and she was on the news, on the radio. They cheated her on some kind of scam or something. I don't know. She didn't live too far from here. She lives in Phoenix. But anyway, so I always make sure that I tell people helping you, because a lot of times they're going to wonder, why are you being so nice to me? Why are you being so kind? Helping you is the way that I recover. So I will always even joke with them. It's not about whether you recover. It's about whether I recover. And I'll tell you this story just quickly because it's so appropriate for this sentence here. In March of 1934, April of 1934, sorry, April of 1934, Bill Wilson comes home and Lois is there and they're getting ready to go to the Oxford group meeting. So it must have been a Tuesday. And Bill Wilson is very discouraged, very discouraged. And he's about to leave for Akron, Ohio on a proxy fight. And he says to Lois, dang it, Lois, I got this idea from God. I got this idea that I'm supposed to sober up drunks, but nobody's getting sober. And she turned to him and she changed the course of human history. She did, because if she would have said, yeah, you're right, stop doing it, I'm dead. And maybe so are you dead. Or you'll wish you were dead because you wouldn't be able to get out of bed. You wouldn't be able to wear clothes. You wouldn't be able to leave the house. I mean, that's how bad this disease is. And if you think it's bad now, remember, it's progressive. It gets worse every day. She turned to him and said, listen to this part, but you're staying sober. And he goes, yes. I haven't been sober, he must have said to himself, since 1917 when I was a soldier in World War I, before he was assigned to Plattsburgh. He looks at himself and he must say, wow, I'm staying sober. So I love all my sponsees, and there are several of you here today, and I appreciate you. I thank you every day for helping God keep me out of the food for another day. But you know the truth? I'm going to sound mean here, but I'm going to tell you. I don't give a damn whether you get recovery or not at a baseline. I mean, I'd like to see you recover. I really would. But the most important thing is that I'm in recovery because I'm a selfish old bastard. So I want to be in recovery and I don't want to be incapacitated by this disease. And I don't want to have to go out and buy a truck that I can get in and out of, or I don't want to go out and have to buy whatever because I like the clothes I'm wearing. I bought this at Stepping Stones. I didn't have to go to Henry's Hippo Emporium and get this specially made. All the garments that I'm wearing right now come from a regular store. How proud am I of that? I couldn't be prouder. How grateful am I for that? I couldn't be more grateful to God for allowing me to say to you, my bills are paid, my clothes fit, they're a little loose, they all come from a normal store. I can walk 3 miles and not stop. My health is good, and I have a decent life. I'm so grateful for that. And that doesn't come because I'm who I am or what I am. That comes only from God. It comes only through a spiritual awakening. We have a disease that no human power can conquer. His defense must come from a higher power. At certain times, the alcoholic has no defense against the first drink. His defense must come from a higher power. That's the end of chapter 3. Okay, let's go back here. Actually, he may be helping you more than you are helping him. And again, some of my sponsees are here. There's one of them. There's one of them. There's two. And there's 2 or 3 more that are here. But you guys help me way more than I help you. Okay? Make it plain he is under no obligation to you, and that you hope only that he will try to help other alcoholics when he escapes his own difficulties. One of the first conversations I have with my sponsees is, it is agreed that when we get to that point, you are going to be a sponsor. Because if you're not going to do that, I'm not going to spend time with you. I'm not going to do it. You have to assure me that when the time comes, and I'll let you know when it comes in about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, that you are now going to go and be a sponsor. And all of my sponsees, 1, 2, 3, and there's several of you all have sponsees of your own. And that's great. Suggest how important it is that he place the welfare of other people ahead of his own. And this goes back to our Oxford group roots. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. We must consider others. We must be hard on ourselves, but considerate of others. There are many, many instances in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that call us back to the altruism that is bequeathed to us from the Oxford group. And again, very quickly, the Oxford groupers were not looking to help alcoholics. They were looking to reinstill enthusiasm. There's a good word, enthusiasm. It comes from 2 Greek words, entheos, from God. They were looking to instill enthusiasm into their worship of Christ, into early Christianity, because their modern day Christianity, the early Christians were willing to be eaten by wild animals to prove their devotion to Christ. The Oxford group wanted to instill, not that you be eaten by animals, they wanted to instill that same enthusiasm for your Christianity that they saw lacking in the Christian world around them. And this is what they left us, is this idea of altruism, giving with no expectation of return. If I give to you with an expectation of return, that is not giving, that is manipulation. I will do this for you. I will do that for you. I will give you this. I will give you that. Just don't abandon me, or stay in love with me, or stay with me. Don't hurt me because you owe me. Sound familiar? That's manipulation. That is not giving. That is not giving. When I give to you in an altruistic setting, I am giving with no expectation of any return at all whatsoever. Do with what I've given you as whatever you want. Whatever you want, do that. Because I don't have any expectations of you. And so giving and manipulation are different things, as Jupiter is different from Earth. Very, very different concepts. Let's continue here. Make it clear that he is not under pressure, that he needn't see you again if he doesn't want to. Absolutely. You don't want me to sponsor you, you feel that you'd be better off going in another direction, God bless you. I have no ill feelings in my heart. It's not about me. And for the love of God, there are so many men in this program who need sponsorship. There's more than enough for everybody. For God's sakes, there is a constant supply of people, and it's not a problem. You should not be offended, speaks for itself, if he wants to call it off, for he has helped you more than you have helped him. If your talk has been sane, no excitement, no, you got to believe this and you got to do this. Whoa, whoa, save the you gotta's for something else. Don't you gotta the guy into oblivion. Sane, quiet, and full of human understanding, you have perhaps made a friend. Maybe you have disturbed him about the question of alcoholism. That is all to the good. The more hopeless he feels, the better. He will be more likely to follow your suggestions. I want to tell you a story today that ties into this program. There are people that want to do this. There are people that don't. And you hear me say all the time, this is not a program for people who need it. It is not a program for people who want it. It's a program for people who do it. But I want to tell you a story because I really like this story. And if you've ever heard me speak at a retreat or a convention, this story will probably come up. A number of years ago, I had a friend, he's dead now, but I had a friend who was in OA and he was in AA as well. And this happened to him, not to me. He was in Los Angeles and at the AA office on a Saturday night that was raining like you couldn't believe. And he was at this office and he and a friend went out to a motel in East Los Angeles, which is not the high rent district. They go out to this motel because a guy called into the AA office. And they go out there to see this guy. They always go in twos. They go out there and the guy is half in the bag and he's drinking and he's sitting on the bed watching TV. So they come in, they turn the TV off, and they talk to this guy for a while. And all of a sudden it occurs to both of them, this guy is falling asleep. This guy, just the best thing we can do for this guy is put him in bed, take off his shoes, cover him up, and leave him because he's falling asleep. There's no sense to this. And they leave. 5 years later, my friend is speaking in San Diego, California. And a guy walks up to him, throws his arms around him, and says, "You saved my life." And my friend says, "I don't believe I know you. Do we know each other?" And the guy says, "Oh yeah, I forgot to explain." He says, "Do you remember about a few years ago, you came out to a motel in East LA and you were talking to a guy that was sitting on the bed?" And he had to think for a minute. And he says, "Yeah, but you're not that guy." He says, "No, that guy died." He said he died just a couple of months after you came and talked to him. He says, "But I was hiding under the bed and I heard every word you said and I haven't had a drink since." Now, the reason I love this story is too numerous to tell you. There's many reasons why I love this story. But you never know when you talk to somebody, even if they do not want to follow your suggestions, you don't know that who this person is going to talk to, and that person is going to recover. The message of recovery is eternal and God-given. It's as if God whispers and someone is meant to hear it, but it may not be the person that you think. How many times have we heard people saying somebody brought them to a meeting and that person vanished? Never came back to another meeting, but the second person stayed. I can think of at least one person that's here that lived in Illinois, And she was brought to this program by someone who never came back to another meeting as long as they lived. But this person has been a column, a rampart of recovery for a very long time. So you never, ever know who is meant to hear the message of recovery. You just don't know. So the person doesn't want what you have, no problem. They might mention to someone at some point that says to them, I'm dying in my food. Oh, go to Overeaters Anonymous. They might be able to help you. You never know. Let's continue on page 94. Your candidate may give reasons why he needed not follow all the program. He may rebel at the thought of a drastic house cleaning, which requires discussion with other people. That's steps 4 and 5. Do not contradict such views. Tell him you once felt as he does, but you doubt whether you would have made much progress had you not taken action. On your first visit, tell him about the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Notice that that's capitalized. The Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous is a power greater than myself. A lot of people knock the fellowship and they say, you can't get sober on the fellowship. Well, I got news for you. Maybe I can't get sober on the fellowship, but if I didn't have the Fellowship of Overeaters Anonymous, I wouldn't be here today alive. I'd be dead, or I'd be worse than dead. There are worse things than life, than death. And the worst thing is to be in the food for an extended period of time where I cannot function as a human being. I cannot function. So each and every one of you is part of my recovery. Whether I know you intimately or I don't know you intimately, by coming here, by being part of our Scottsdale family, by being part of this program, you are saving my life and many, many other lives. You think you're not important when you come to a meeting? You're very important. You're part of the fabric of what this is. And if you keep removing threads from the fabric, if you keep removing them, eventually it comes apart and we all die. So we are all a part of each other's recovery. If he shows interest, lend him your copy of this book. You can do that. The book was $3.50 when it first was published in April of 1939, and now it's $10.50. So it's only gone up $7 in 80 years. Isn't that funny? It's funny that in 80 years, it has only gone up $7. Unless your friend wants to, I'm at the top of 95. Unless your friend wants to talk further about himself, do not wear out your welcome. In other words, don't try to browbeat the person into thinking he needs recovery or she needs recovery. Just state your case and let them go. They'll either come or they do it or they won't. Give him a chance to think it over. If you do stay, let him steer the conversation in any direction he likes. Sometimes a new man is anxious to proceed at once, and you may be tempted to let him do so. This is sometimes a mistake. If he has trouble later, he is likely to say you rushed him. You will be most successful with alcoholics if you do not exhibit any passion for crusade or reform. Never talk down to an alcoholic from any moral or spiritual hilltop. Simply lay out the kit of spiritual tools for his inspection. Show him how they worked with you. Offer him friendship and fellowship. Tell him if he wants to get well, you will do anything to help. I do rush people, and I think we all should. I know that it says not to, but if you're ready, there's no reason to delay this. There's no reason after a while to go home and do this slowly. I do it quickly, and I do it quickly because that's the best way for it to work. So there's a little bit of a contradiction there. Yes, they worked the steps very, very quickly in the early days, But what he's talking about is don't rush the guy into agreeing to let you sponsor him. He may have some other ideas. If he does, that's fine. But once you have 2 days of abstinence, we go very quickly. We do a chapter. I do a chapter a day, and we go very quickly. Now here we're going to go into the 3 ifs. We're on page 95. These are the 3 ifs. If he is not interested in your solution, if he expects you to act only as a banker for his financial difficulties or a nurse for his sprees, you may have to drop him until he changes his mind. This he may do after he gets hurt some more. I am not a banker. It is not as impactful today as it was during the height of the Depression. But I've never lent, I don't think I've ever, I may have, but I doubt it, maybe at $10 or something. I'm not a big money lender or borrower. I'm just not. And that just doesn't really come into it today for me. Most of the guys I sponsor are well on their feet financially, and they're not looking for money from me. The second if he is sincerely interested and wants to see you again, ask him to read this book in the interval. What I ask people to do during their 2 days is read as much of the book as you can. Try to finish it. Try to finish at least the doctor's opinion, which is 8 pages, and then the other part is 164. So it's really not the first 164 pages I want you to read. It's the 172, because I want you to read the 8 pages of the doctor's opinion. I think without the doctor's opinion, none of this makes any sense. At least it doesn't make sense to me, because Dr. Silkworth explains what the disease is. And without Dr. Silkworth's explanation, it's very hard for me to understand what in God's name they're talking about. So I need those 8 pages. Okay, here's the third if on the bottom of 95. If he thinks he can do the job in some other way or prefers some other spiritual approach, encourage him to follow his own conscience. We have no monopoly on God. We merely have an approach that worked with us. But point out that we alcoholics have much in common and that you would like in any case to be friendly. Let it go at that. Top of 96. This is a paragraph, this is a page that I will point people to when they ask me a very often asked question: should I let go of my sponsee who won't do this or who does that, or I think they're lying or whatever? This is the paragraph I point them to. Do not be discouraged if your prospect does not respond at once. Search out another alcoholic and try again. You are sure to find someone desperate enough to accept with eagerness what you offer. We find it a waste of time to keep chasing a man who cannot or will not work with you. Now, when they say he will not work with you, that doesn't mean they're not begging you to keep sponsoring them. Why are they begging you to keep sponsoring them? Mostly because they don't want to do the work of finding someone else. And that's a huge, huge, huge factor. But if they're not doing what you're telling them to do, it says here, if you leave such a person alone, he may soon become convinced he cannot recover by himself. This sentence is key right here. To spend too much time on any one situation is to deny some other alcoholic an opportunity to live and be happy. Let the person who isn't doing what you want them to do go. Let them go. One of our fellowship failed entirely with his first half dozen prospects. He often says that if he had continued to work on them, he might have deprived many others who have since recovered of their chance. Bill is talking about himself, and it's more than a half a dozen. He was trying to sober up these guys in the Bowery in New York, and he was pulling these guys off of bar stools, and he's dragging them to the Oxford group meetings. Most of them didn't want to go, but he was going to sober up the world. He had lots of enthusiasm. Dr. Bob took an opposite approach. He wanted to make sure you were ready before he started sponsoring you. That's why 66% of the first 100 recoveries came out of Akron. 2/3 of the recoveries in the first 100 did not come out of New York. It came out of Akron, Ohio, because Bill was shooting off and going crazy and, telling people this and telling people that and all this other stuff. Well, the bottom line is that Dr. Bob didn't do that, and his recovery rate was much higher than Bill's. And then it started to, change. Bill started changing, and Clarence Snyder and his sponsorship thing. Clarence Snyder is really the father of modern day sponsorship, because Clarence was the first person in 1939, September of 39, to encourage Dr. Bob to break from the Oxford group. We'll get into that another time. But he started using the big book as a textbook on how to sponsor, how to recover. He was doing it before anyone else. After the book was published, he figured out how to use the book to sponsor other people. So it's really Clarence Snyder that is the father of modern day sponsorship, not Bill or Bob. Okay, let's continue. Suppose now you are making your second visit to a man. Again, not really appropriate for our world today. They will come to you. They will come to the meeting. You're probably not going to go over to the guy's house. This is in the days where they all lived in Akron area. They all lived in New York, or they lived, close to there. And now we have a worldwide fellowship. I have people that I've sponsored. I've never met them in my life. One of them is right there. And there's other ones I've been, intimate emotionally with for years. I've never met them. I've never been in the same country as them. Suppose you are making your second visit to a man. He has read this volume and says he is prepared to go through with the 12 steps of the program of recovery. Having had the experience yourself, you can give him much practical advice. Let him know you are available if he wishes to make a decision and tell his story, but not insist upon it if he prefers to consult someone else. Again, we're not taking any of this personally. Bill knew that we are immature, sensitive, perfectionistic rebels, so he wants to go out of his way to remind us not to take any of this personally. It's not to be taken personally. He may be broken homeless. Again, it may happen that he's broken homeless, less likely today than it was at the height of the Depression. If he is, you might try to help him about getting a job or give him a little financial assistance. Again, he's kind of contradicting the other thing. Don't let the person be dependent on you for money. Now he's telling you you may want to, I can help somebody get a job, but I don't know all fields. Or give him a little financial assistance. Not my thing usually. But you should not deprive your family or creditors of money they should have. In other words, if you're still making 9-step reparations and your creditors need this money, you do not lend it to a sponsee. You give it to the person that you owe it to. In other words, on every airplane that you've ever flown on in your life, they give you a great Al-Anon meeting. They say, put your mask on first, because if you don't have your mask on, you can't help anyone else. You cannot help anyone else. And this is the same thing. Make your 9-step amends. Do what you need to do to give your creditors their money before you even think of lending it out. Perhaps you will want to take the man into your home for a few days. Again, not as likely to happen today. But be sure you use discretion. Be certain he will be welcomed by your family and that he is not trying to impose on you for money, connections, or shelter. Permit that and you only harm him. You will be making it possible for him to be insincere. You will be aiding in his destruction rather than in his recovery. Top of 97. Never avoid these responsibilities, but be sure you are doing the right thing if you assume them. Helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. A kindly act once in a while isn't enough. You have to act the Good Samaritan every day if need be. It may mean the loss of many nights' sleep, great interference with your pleasures, interruptions to your business. It may mean sharing your money and your home, counseling frantic wives and relatives, innumerable trips to police courts, sanitariums, hospitals, jails, and asylums. Your telephone may jangle at any time of the day or night. They didn't see cell phones coming, did they? Where you can silence them or turn them off. A lot of people get very, did I call you too early? No, you didn't call me too early, because if it was too early, I wouldn't have heard a thing. My phone, I put it on silent vibrate the day I buy it, the minute I buy it, and I never ever take it off. And I'm up very early in the morning. If you try calling me late at night, might be a different result. You probably won't reach me. You'll get voicemail, and I will return your call the next day. Your telephone may jangle at any time of the day or night. Your wife may sometimes say she is neglected. A drunk may smash the furniture in your home or burn a mattress. You may have to fight with him if he is violent. Sometimes you will have to call a doctor and administer sedatives under his direction. Another time you may have to send for the police or an ambulance. Occasionally you will have to meet such conditions. Not as much now, not with compulsive overeating. Drunks are a little different, honestly, than compulsive overeaters. Most of these guys are not fighting, and they're not, this is not as applicable to us as it would be to early AA from 80 years ago. Page 97, I'm just kind of plowing through. We seldom allow an alcoholic to live in our homes for a long time. It is not good for him, and it sometimes creates serious complications in a family. Very, very important. But I have never had anybody ask me, honestly, if they could live in my home. If you've had that situation, you'll have to deal with it. But if you need to say no, say no. There is nothing in the sponsorship agreement that says, I have to let you live in my house. And I'm not set up for that. I have 2 bedrooms in my home. I'm sitting in one of them. This is my office where I work. No one's going to sleep in here. There's no room. There's computers, plural. There's desks. There's 2 office chairs. There's a big bookcase. So there's nowhere for you to sleep here. So there's 1 bed and 1 bedroom. I don't have a guest room. I don't have that. I'm not set up for that. So if you need to, there's a hotel. If you need to, there's a motel. I'm not set up for that. Though an alcoholic does not respond, there is no reason why you should neglect his family. Again, not as applicable, because you're probably not going to meet their family. I've known some of you for years. I've never met any members of your family. You should continue to be friendly to them. The family should be offered your way of life, Al-Anon. Should they accept and practice spiritual principles? What are the spiritual principles? The steps. Principles is just another word for steps. In the 80s, when Bill was dead, some guy says this principle of 1 is this, and the principle of 2 is this. That was long after he was gone. He's talking about the steps, not what you see on, with that. There is a much better chance that the head of the family will recover, and even though he continues to drink, the family will find life more bearable. And that's Al-Anon right there. For the type of alcoholic who is able and willing to, top of page 98, get well, little charity in the ordinary sense of the word is needed or wanted. The men who cry for money and shelter before conquering alcohol are on the wrong track. I did that. I was mad. I was dead broke when I came in here. Dead broke. My parents left me with nothing. I was making nothing. I wasn't making anywhere close to what I needed just to exist in the world. And I was in very bad physical shape, mental shape, emotional state, financial shape. And I said, well, if God's so great, how come I'm broke? And if God doesn't work that way, I had to adjust my thinking. God is great. We straighten out we straighten out financially when we straighten out spiritually, not the other way around. We just don't. All right, let's continue. Yes, we do go to great extremes to provide each other with these things when such action is warranted. These may seem inconsistent, but we think it is not. Now, these are your priorities, and I'm going to cover this in just the last minute that we have, and I will review. No, you know what? We're at 8:30. No, I'm going to wait on the priorities on page 98 until next week. Let's do this. I'm so happy that 140 of you, 139 of you found us this morning. I'm going to just write this in here, and then I'll talk to you for just a second here. We're on page 98, I believe. Yes. It is not the matter of giving. It is not the matter. All right. So I'm very glad about the Zoom site or the Zoom room. We'll get that straightened out, and then we'll let you know during the week what is going on. But don't worry about it. In a worst case scenario, we'll be back here next week. Don't let it bother you. It's all good. No problem. We will get to the bottom of it and we will find a good solution. Okay, you won. Let's open it up for questions and answers.
Yes, I'm gonna stop the recording.